Hey, welcome to the St. Louis Syndicate. I'm Nate. He's Brandon. We're here to talk with you about our NFL plays. This is going to be a little different. We're going to actually combine our Survivor knowledge and our NFL knowledge into one video. That way, you guys can get the best of everything all at once. And we're going to start with Survivor because, really, by this point in time, Brandon, don't you think everybody should either be eliminated or have won their pools?
Yeah, I think so. I find it hard pressed to have too many people still running around banging it out 15 weeks in. Other than some of the modified stuff like I'm playing in.
Yeah, which is still a lot of fun, and the only thing that I run into with the modified stuff is now you're getting down to some teams that probably you haven't used yet that are just really questionable and challenging to stay alive. So, what are you looking at this week?
I'm staring at basically Arizona or Baltimore. The way that mine breaks down, I'm I'm down to if I play Arizona, none of the people that I'm in the hunt against have them left. So I can kind of play that as a counter pick, but
Yeah,
Baltimore kind of leaves an opportunity for the person that's tied with me to stay with me. But I Baltimore on the road, it feels like them coming off a bye, like this is a slam dunk, even on the road. Whereas Arizona seems to be in some sort of weird free fall. Um, Even New England coming to town kind of worries me a bunch. Um, it's gonna be an interesting thing, especially looking at what we have here on the screen to kind of widen it out to go. We've got Philly playing Pitt, who
no play.
like money line wise, I would probably take Pitt.
Yeah,
At what the money line price is right now. Like that I we could get back to some weird stuff with Washington being in New Orleans,
oh yeah. Is
Philly
Carr
playing
playing? Is he
Pitt.
not playing? I mean,
Like
I heard.
Minnesota should be safe playing Chicago, but you're in division. Chicago's had a couple of bad games. Well, I mean, they threw away a game and then they had a bad game. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I'm probably gonna stick with Arizona and just kind of go down with the ship and just assume that they're gonna figure out a way to get home against a team that truly isn't as good as them, even though New England has these sneaky drives where they look like they're able to just burn everybody whenever they want. But that's kind of where I land. I would stay away from Philly and Washington if it was me, and try to pick one of the other ones. The other sneaky one that's hanging out there, if you're really stuffed in a bind, is to go with like Denver or Houston, who that should not lose those games. Cannot be who they say they want to be and lose those games at home against out of division foes. But those are obviously shorter lines and way riskier. But um, they they feel like sure things when I'm staring at it.
Denver makes me nervous from that scenario, only because they should be able to take care of business, but they're on the road and they just are trying to figure it out. Houston and Miami. Well, Miami's a wild card, man. They can drop 50 or they can drop five, and have an explanation for both.
They
Um,
are, but
Terrible.
Houston coming off a bye at home.
Yeah, you would think.
Yeah, they're
You would.
supposed to take care of business there. I don't know. That's going to be an interesting one to see.
Yeah. I don't know how much I would put faith in that, but I like your Arizona play. I really do. I think that New England is not a team that travels well. I think in general, when you kind of look at New England and how they've done, um, they've been a little bit on a skid. I know they're coming off a bye. They've been on a little bit of a skid, but um, they're not winning very many games on the road either. So,
No, no, that's true. That's
um,
probably what I'm going to end up on. Like when it comes down to it, I need to I need to create some daylight between me and the person that's tied with me. So I think that's the best spot.
yeah. Okay, so that's our Survivor stuff. You know, once again, we're combining the videos because we think we can flow right in. One of the things that, and my screen is acting crazy. I'm just going to go ahead and populate it for everybody. Um, our top five, our top two haven't really changed. I mean, Detroit is taking care of business. Whether they win by 30 or they win by 3, right now they appear to be the strongest team.
Yeah.
Buffalo um, lost to the Rams, which did move the Rams into the top 5 dreaming category.
Yeah.
But Buffalo actually played really well. The defense was a little sus. Could have been a little bit better, but at the same time, they're potent. So when we talk about power ratings and teams you don't want to face and don't have worries about and you're gambling, I'm not worried about either one of those two teams.
No, no, I tend to agree. You can poke holes in all of them, especially when we were talking about these top two and having a little bit of a uh lower tier defense compared to their offense. But the offense is so capable of scoring on every drive that it takes a lot of the stress off the defense. To be able to create one turnover and just put the game in a spot where the other team has to play catch up for the rest of the match.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd have a hard time taking anybody over those guys, except for in real specific scheduling spots.
Yeah. I think Philly's in a unique spot, right? They win, but they don't win pretty. And they've got a tough game coming up this week against
It,
Pittsburgh. I think it's very easy that if Pittsburgh gives Philly a loss here, Pittsburgh moves into the top 5 potentially. Um, that kind of depends a little bit on Baltimore and Kansas City. Um, and really how bad that beating is. But we kind of wavered back and forth when we were talking between Baltimore and Pittsburgh. And ultimately, it kind of comes down to while Pittsburgh has a better record, Baltimore just has a little bit more of the nuts and bolts it's going to take to win at a championship level. That being said, I could see Pittsburgh running the table and ending up in the damn Super Bowl if all the stars align correctly.
yeah, yeah. At a certain point, this this kind of crazier offense that Pittsburgh's going after that's quite unique. If it keeps working, then it becomes less crazy, right? Like we know what Baltimore is, we know what they're trying to do and what they're trying to avoid doing, and they've had issues with avoiding the things that they're trying to avoid. It's hard to take them out of the top five, but here's the reality is that Baltimore has what should be a very easy game, even though they're going on the road. And Pittsburgh is on the road, and they've got what should be a very difficult game. And if Baltimore wins by 3 and Pittsburgh wins by 3, I think we have to go, those teams are basically even, and maybe they should be flipped.
Yeah, high possibility there.
Like,
Um,
everybody can get a W, and Baltimore just they need to win with some style points eventually to get some people to believe that, hey, when we get to the playoffs and it's one game or go home, that like they're gonna be able to find the ability to, separate. I don't know. They're really having a hard time for such a good team.
yeah, I think one thing that is we talked about, and this is kind of for your NFL steam too, for you guys to watch out for. Um, a common denominator on this page is rushing. Rushing has really made a big comeback for the NFL this year in terms of the teams that are at the top power. I mean, really look how much Dan Campbell's leaned on that running game, how much the Eagles are leaning on Saquon, Derrick Henry back leaning on it. Arguably, Cook is having career year in Buffalo, and then you look at the top five Dreamers and Kyron Williams outstanding, Jacobs outstanding, Najee outstanding, and the two-headed monster there of White and Bucky Irving in Tampa really has it going. So these teams that are competing at a top level, they're running the ball, and you know that's going to be very sustainable in the playoffs. So you're going to look at this and go, who's got the best defense? So I think that even though we look at offenses a lot, we go, wow, look at the Lions, wow, look at Buffalo, wow, look at the Chiefs. Offense, is pretty. Wow, look at the Rams, right? I mean, Puka and Cooper flying around out there with Stafford zinging them the ball. At the end of the day, the teams that run the ball are going to be there. Who's got the best defense? And arguably, the Chiefs are right there with that. And that's kind of why they're winning, right? Everybody's like, oh, I hate the Chiefs. I hate the Chiefs. So, they barely win. Well, it's
Right.
because the defense is really good. And when you can play good defense, the Steelers' defense is pretty good. Buffalo's defense is they played pretty good all year. Last week wasn't a good showing. But for the most part, they've been very competitive. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts there?
No, it's a great point. I think that is one of the things that if you think back and you're sitting there and you're watching all the games and you can wait until the game's over and look at all the advanced stats and go, oh, their efficiency is top five,
Yeah.
or their yards per attempt is way up there, or however you want to, whatever efficiency metric or power metric you want to look at. But the reality is when you're looking at it on the screen and you're going, this team's a problem. It's because every time they hand the ball off, the guy goes for like 4 yards and then falls forward.
Yeah.
And you go, okay, cool. Now it's 2nd and 6. And then you have dozens of plays you can throw short of the sticks, just beyond the sticks to give yourself a chance to run on 3rd down or get the first down in two, or whatever that is that when you go down and you go, hey, I'm worried about these teams that are in between, where you go, maybe their power ranking's a little higher than some of the people that we have on the screen, but you go, hey, when I need 3 yards, I have to throw it. And
Yeah.
that changes the entire idea around what you can do on offense. So I think that's where this good group of 11 teams comes from, that goes, hey, we're going to run to open up the space to then pass. And then there are varying degrees. You got Detroit and being able to sling it all over the place, and then you've got Philly, who their wide receivers are ready to start a mutiny. And, but
Oh,
that base of the running back gets everybody up here in this top 10 or 11.
oh, it's insane. I was looking real quick while we're kind of talking about this. Um, it's really interesting to see. We talked about third downs, third down conversions, and really these teams, Brandon, are doing a pretty decent job of getting off the field on third down, or they're actually doing a good job of putting themselves in third and short and able to convert on third downs.
Right.
I was taking a look at some of the stats here. Third down conversions per game. The Chiefs are number one. The Eagles are number two. The Bucks are number three. The Steelers, the Steelers, the Lions, and the Ravens are all tied for fifth. And so they're converting. So exactly what you just said about defense and running, and then looking at the metrics afterwards, the metrics are spelling it out and backing it. So
Yeah.
watch for that stuff when we're gambling, right? The teams that are converting on third downs are the teams that are putting points on the board and scoring. And then conversely, the teams that are not converting on third down are not getting there. So then, if you're running into two teams that can't get there on third down, maybe the game's going under. Just saying.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That, like, you have bad teams, and then you have then you have teams that can't convert on third down. You have last week, you have Jacksonville and Tennessee, where you go, um, one of these teams has, a slightly better defense than the other one, but both of their offenses are so bad that when they're playing bad defenses, it doesn't matter because they're so bad at staying on the field that you just kick the ball back and forth all game until somebody breaks something. And like that's
Yeah.
the extent of it. Whereas, all of these teams here have built their offense around we're getting first downs in 2 plays. And if we're forced to, we've got some ideas for third down.
Yeah.
And then we could not to mention that a lot of these teams have made themselves very comfortable with if they get to third down, maybe we'll do something wild because we're completely comfortable going for it on fourth down also. And it
Yeah.
just creates this cascading issue for the defense when you got crazy man Campbell up there in Detroit going, yeah, no, I'm gonna run it on second down to get to a third and like one, and then I'll throw it 40 yards on third and one because I'm going for it on fourth and one. So like have fun trying to stop me from getting the first down on third down when I just send a bunch of wide receivers streaking down the field, and you've got to respect it because I've got no problem running it the next play if my guy doesn't catch it down there. This isn't a decoy. I might throw it down there, and
Right.
then it seems like half the NFL haven't quite figured that out or haven't drafted the right guys or I'm not in the room. I don't know what kind of conversation they're having all week, but you see some of these teams that have Atlanta is kind of the poster boy of that where you
Yeah.
go, you guys have all the firepower. Like, how is
Right.
your offense not better? And it's like, well, we're not real efficient with the way that we stack our plays. So
That's right.
we end up with like thirds and long where a dude either has to make an awesome catch or we're going to punt it.
Yeah, and it's just not a good situation at all.
Yeah,
Not a good situation, and honestly, I could sit here and talk these stats all day. It's just one last piece on that rushing thing that was interesting to me. I went ahead and pulled up rushing play percentage. To your point, number one's Philly, two Pittsburgh, three Green Bay, four Baltimore, five Detroit. Buffalo does get in at eight. So
sure.
five of the top five are all leading the NFL in rushing attempts, and
Yeah,
no coincidence that three of them already clinched playoff spots.
sure. And
So
what is the big difference between the Bills last year and the Bills this year?
so right.
Was that they went into the year running. Like, obviously, the back half of the year last year, they kind of figured it out. But
Yeah.
they had played for 2.5 years of like Josh Allen's prime with him just going, I'm going to run the ball and then I'm going to throw the ball. And like, that's going to be the extent of it. And then all of a sudden they go, okay, well, if we get another guy in the mix, we can kind of get this same flywheel that Baltimore did the same thing. Hey, let's go pick up a good running back. We got Lamar, he can throw, he can run. Let's get him a elite running back. And then you start opening up what your offense is capable of.
Yeah.
It just seems like it's kind of went two different ways with Baltimore kind of or yeah, Baltimore kind of having some weird failures at the ends of the game. I don't know. That one's rough to think about going into the playoffs and putting some money on the ghost of Justin Tucker.
Whew, yeah. There's a little bit of that too that makes it difficult, and that was probably something we should have debated a little bit more around the top five. But um, that guy, he's he'll show up. He'll fix it.
I like to assume that, but it has been weird for a
Yeah.
couple of weeks watching him go out there and just go like, I don't know, this is kind of a coin flip. And then just him kick the ball and it go sailing one direction or the other, and you just go like, oh, okay, well that's newly what's going to go. And there's a reasonable number of people that are out there that are kind of kicking aficionados who go, this is kind of like a knockout thing. Like you can either do it or you can't. And when you lose it, sometimes it doesn't come
Oh,
back.
yeah, it's over.
Yeah, it's just the yips. It's a closer. It's
Yeah,
anybody that, high leverage sort of thing that like once you get the yips, then that's all you're thinking about.
yeah. It's such a mind game. Kickers not only have to have the talent and the skill level to be able to take a little oblong object and put it in the air, in the wind, in the elements, and
Yeah.
kick that thing with a foot. Not even they're not even throwing it with a foot,
Right.
60 yards, 55 yards,
Yeah,
60,
it's crazy.
45, and then try to do it while you're thinking, I can't do this. This is
Yeah,
terrible.
well,
Like,
it's like having people run at you while you're trying to do a golf shot or something like that. Like
yeah,
you're like, okay, just a couple of steps this way, get my hips in the right spot, and there's dudes jumping over the center, and like, I mean that block in New Orleans, that
oh
was,
yeah,
I thought the guy was gonna crumple. Like when I saw it live, like I don't know that I've ever watched a guy uh like completely stretch himself out and land like straight legged when you're like
yeah.
300 pounds. Like there's no way he's walking around this week. Like he's being carted from place to place.
Nope,
He needed
nope.
every inch of that height to get in front of that ball. And he was like, oh, I'm not gonna like bend my legs and try to jump again. He's like, I'm just gonna lock my knees out and put my hands up and hope he kicks it into me.
And so then
That was
air
a
kids, you want to know why the combine's important? You know that little thing they jump up and squat? It is.
for sure.
Practical application, right?
Oh
You don't
man,
need
that
way
was that
more
was
talent.
incredible for a dude that size to hurdle a guy and then just lock his knees out and stop his entire body from crumpling.
So we've talked a little bit about the Pittsburgh Philly game. We talked about that earlier with Survivor and touched on it. Buffalo Detroit. Detroit's favored by 2.5 at home, which they probably should be. That makes a lot of sense. I'm
Yeah.
interested in one number from you. I want to know. Would you
Okay.
play the over?
Oh,
54 and a half.
look, I if you're gonna play the over under, you might as well go over. There's no fun in going. I hope Aiden Hutchinson's little brother tackles Josh Allen a couple of times. Like this is either going to be a rout, which a rout can get you to 54 pretty quick,
Yeah,
or this is going to be
a shootout.
back to back games of Buffalo just going like, yeah, I guess we're going to score 40, and then I don't know that. I mean the the numbers I'm sure say you should take the under.
Oh, I'm sure they do. I
But
don't
there
know.
are
That's no
there
fun.
are certain times where you go, I'm just not I'm not going to play that, or I'm going to do the fun thing. It's kind of my thing talking about Pittsburgh. That like if I was going to bet the Pittsburgh Philly game, I would take Pittsburgh on the money line
Yeah.
because it's no fun to go, yeah, give me 5 when I'm pretty sure Philly either covers or loses.
So I'm down to 147,000 in
Ben
Ben Harper.
Harper.
Do I put it all on the over and, and just sit and watch that game and pray that everybody who touches the ball breaks
I that's one option.
it?
I I know that there will be guys that put a there will be guys that are still alive that will be their only play.
Oh yeah.
I can tell
Oh,
you that
I
like
would completely do that.
not necessarily going all in, but like you will go down the spreadsheet there and you will find somebody that has just played this over and went like, all right, like I'm putting half of my bank on this and we're just gonna go with that.
Yeah. No, I'm totally. There's only 14 of us left. Flanders has 3 million. The next is 1.1. I'm at 147,000. I'm like, I got to double up a couple times here.
Yeah, you need a big leverage play. Maybe
Yeah.
it's maybe it's time to take some money line underdogs or something like
Do you
that.
go?
See if you can.
How about we just parlay Detroit and the over? Because Harper's got us at -1.5.
That's a
It's
good
fine.
number.
It's a good number. It's
I'm
fine.
worried. We kind of had this conversation shortly uh, before we went live, but it worries me that people are starting to slide this direction of that maybe Detroit and Minnesota and Green Bay are collectively way better than everybody else. And that what we're seeing is these three really good teams kind of beat up on each other and
Oh yeah.
suppress their their outward value. And so, like where I go, I really want to take the points in this game. I also go, okay, Buffalo just came off of like two wild games. And now they got to go play Detroit in Detroit.
It's gonna be
And
wild.
we're under three. And I, I, yeah, that one worries me. I'm probably going to end up on Detroit, I think.
Yeah. I know. I'm like I don't know which way to go because it's like
But
do I take the points? What do I do?
if Allen goes out there and just goes right back to, I mean, well, let's look at it. Okay, Detroit, we're talking like 11th defense, and the Rams like the 20th
Yeah.
as far as full year. Probably has some priors for last year baked into there a little bit. So they're going up a notch in defense, but not going into anything that's like elite shutdown sort of stuff.
Gaps at 1.5.
Maybe maybe Buffalo just shows up and just beats them outright. I'm gonna be torn on that for a couple of days.
Oh yeah.
My first reaction is Buffalo, but I have a feeling I'm gonna get talked into Detroit with a bunch of numbers and
Oh yeah.
math and
Buffalo's my
stuff.
gut, but 1.5 is almost not enough. You almost got to pick who you think's gonna win the game at that point.
Right. The old Chad Lewis classic.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all it is. The Jack Lewis
I,
Classic. I love
I'm
it.
not I'm not taking spreads. I'm picking whoever's gonna win.
Here's the other Chad Lewis Classic then. It's the Ravens 14.5 over the Giants. So 14.5 points. That's the first time we've gone over 2 touchdowns in a spread, I think, this year. Um, Sandman's got him at 15.
Yeah.
Man, I'm just looking at that going, that's a lot of points. Even though Baltimore's coming off the bye, and Baltimore should be looking to roll somebody. And, I know Chad would be like, take it, lay him.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure. I mean, just raw numbers are coming out like 14 and a half point difference.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you want to give the Giants anything for home field advantage at this point, you're just kind of staring at that going,
Mm-hmm.
um, here's where we're at. Um, I the numbers say you got to take the Giants and just move on with your life. But but
Wouldn't
like
that
the
be
right
just wonderful?
like handicapping wise, it should be Baltimore.
Yeah.
Like when you look at like what Baltimore's done and what the Giants have done, um, you should lay the points.
Well,
But
remember I told you I create my own lines?
yeah,
Mine say that Baltimore should be favored by 23.
so there you go. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, when you're doing it mathematically from
I
a
have to
from
make
like
an
a
adjustment.
line perspective, you go, well, give me the more than two touchdowns.
Yeah.
But because who wants to sit there when Baltimore is up 17
Yeah.
and the Giants have the ball at the end of the game,
Oh
sort of
no.
thing. But they should win by, like, oh well, like you said, 23, 24, something in that range, three touchdowns and a field goal, maybe four touchdowns. Like this should just be It's the bulldozing. But we know how these big favorites have went early on this year, and I don't know. If this
Yeah.
isn't Baltimore's year, this is one of those ones where we get back together next week and just go like, "Can you believe that? Drew Lock."
Oh, and Sandman Nation, we're gonna leave you with that. Drew Luck. Good luck with your picks. Hope you enjoyed the content. We'll see you guys next week.
Cheers, everyone.